Hey friend, welcome to Healthy by Heather Brown. Do terms like mental health, intermittent fasting, and buzzy wellness words make you feel overwhelmed? If you don't know where to start with loving the life you already have and letting your good things grow until they become daily habits, I got you, mama. So join me as we unpack what it looks like to live a life well loved and redefine a new approach to health from the inside out. Think of this space as your girlfriend's group text with the occasional dad joke and point of view from my Yankee hubby, Eric. We promise to give you key takeaways that you can implement right away to pursue health in your mind, body, and soul, because God made us that way. Don't stress. Let's hop on this Hot Mess Express together. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the last episode of the season for season 3 of Healthy by Heather Brown. I'm so sad that it's coming to an end, but also Merry Christmas and such a fun episode today because I'm really excited to welcome Dr. Redcross on the show today, who's going to help you guys figure out how to boost your immunity, take care of your healthy self, and try to avoid the flu and cold season. And without further ado, I want to welcome today Dr. Redcross. Hey, come on.
Oh, thank you, Heather. Thank you for having me on. Hello, everyone out there, and almost Merry Christmas.
That's right. That's right. I mean, it's crazy how fast this year is flying by, and it feels weren't we just in 2020? But somehow it's like, whoa.
No, you're right. I don't know if that's about getting a smidgen older or not, Bridget, but in any case, just to make sure, actually.
Yes, for sure. So Dr. Redcross, we were talking a little bit before we hit the record button, and he was like, whoa, you don't sound like you're from New York, which is where he lives. So tell them a little bit about who you are, what you do, and also tell about your fun fact about the amount of animals you have. I've been dying to ask you.
I know you were. Everybody does. So hi, everyone. So I am Dr. Ken Redcross. I am fortunate enough to practice what's called concierge medicine, everyone. In other words, I am able to practice on your time and for you. You know how much has changed in healthcare. So many of you out there are wondering, gosh, it feels like I don't have enough time with my doctor. Well, you kind of don't, to be honest. And so with my concierge practice, everyone, I'm able to focus on 3 things: access, convenience, and time. And with that, I do house calls and things of that nature and talk about holistic ways of healing without using my prescription pad, which is a thing that's become increasingly important. And I guess the fun fact of the day that Heather's already revealed is I have 6 animals and counting. So we could talk about that. That's a totally different show, believe me.
It is, but we do have to know, are they dogs, cats, livestock? What you got going on over there?
Exactly. New York, guys, livestock doesn't do so well in New York. So we just have cats and dogs, kind of the normal stuff there, nothing exotic.
Okay, well, that's super fun. Well, I have to say right off the bat, you have already piqued my interest. And the reason that I was like, I definitely want to have Dr. Redcross on the show is because most doctors are just looking to write on that prescription pad. So tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are now, because most people are like, hang on, he's a doctor and he just said that? Like, what?
Right. No. Heather, look, I appreciate that question because one of the big things, guys. So look, I'm trained in Columbia, big time Columbia and everything where we're always writing prescriptions, right? No, I learned when I moved out to Los Angeles that people were getting better different ways, Heather. They weren't getting prescriptions. And I said, well, what are you taking? What are you doing? And that's when I learned a lot. I learned a lot about homeopathy. Especially for children. Things that became increasingly important. I didn't have to worry about side effects. I didn't have to worry about things interacting with other prescriptions. So I started to recognize and become a little bit closer to getting to the kind of the natural side of healing as opposed to these prescriptions, which are written way too much, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree. And it's really been fascinating for me because well, actually, this is like going to get a little bit personal, but I'm just curious to hear your hot take on this. So
sure.
I found out that I'm allergic to dust, both kinds of dust, which I feel like probably a lot of people are.
Sure.
But whenever like the seasons change and you kick on that heater and it dries out your sinuses immediately, like every single time though, mine would go from like allergies and I'm irritated in my sinus cavity to now I've got the sinus infection that's raging. I might as well have the flu. It's terrible. So and then it was like, what did I do? My parents took me to the doctor. I mean, just Z-Pack after the pink medicine in the refrigerator, after like,
exactly.
which I love the flavor of. Let me tell you, that bubble gum now. So good. But anyway, but then as I got older, people were like, oh, you were on that many antibiotics?
Yeah,
like, what?
Yeah.
So will you maybe share a little bit with people that are like, wait, why is that a problem? They just don't have any frame of reference.
You know what, Heather? So one of the things I'm glad you mentioned, exactly that bubblegum flavor antibiotic, everyone thinks it's okay, but don't forget, everyone, that's artificial. We don't want that. It's really not bubblegum in there. And then the other thing that's so important to recognize as well is we've learned a lot about the microbiome, everyone. That's the good bacteria that's in our gut. And we're starting to recognize when we use too many antibiotics, guess what? They get destroyed. And what are they important for? Immunity, keeping us healthy and well. So we're starting to learn in this sense. I always say this, Heather, that less is more. And especially when it comes to antibiotics in particular, or medications in general, you need to make sure that you're understanding exactly what's going into your body, what it's supposed to do, and are there any alternatives that I say are closer to the earth.
Okay. I love that. Now, let's say if I could rewind back to childhood Heather, and I know a lot of the mamas listening to this are going to be like, okay, so then what do we do when we kick on our heat and when, like the holidays are coming up and the cold and the flu are going around and my kids get sick? Is it that they run to the doctor right away? Is there something they can be doing to boost their immunity? Is there something that you would say, oh, if it seems like it's going in sinus infection territory, what can they do?
Well, one of the things, and I remember, so everyone, my disclaimer is that I have twins. So double trouble, depending on how you look at it. But in another case, the reason why I mentioned that is that when my kids were younger, when one got sick, the other one got sick. And we're a family that likes to travel a lot, which is another reason why homeopathy became important. One of the things, especially when my kids or the family came down with flu-like symptoms, we used to always make sure to reach for oscillococcinum. A long word there, everyone, I know, but so many people are aware of it because it's a homeopathic remedy. And the good thing is the data is there. It's been shown to decrease the severity and the duration of flu-like symptoms, especially when taken within the first 48 hours. I love the fact that I don't have to worry about my kids getting drowsy. It was safe for my twins when they were 2 years of age and older. Now, the other thing that I love about it, if I don't have one here, if I showed you guys, it comes as like little micro pellets. You open up the cap and you put them under your tongue and they dissolve. So that solved two things. Kind of back to that bubblegum thing that you mentioned before, Heather. They taste like little sugar pills, so it was easy for my kids to take. More importantly, the Redcross family travel, so I could take it with me. I didn't need to, exactly.
Yes.
I didn't need to have water. So that way I could hand it to one twin and hand it to the other twin and make sure that they were going to take it, like the taste, and also that it was going to work to kind of, help with those symptoms they were having, flu-like symptoms, whether they were too little to tell us they were having body aches, but we knew they had fever. We knew that they seemed to be uncomfortable, maybe chills, things of that nature. And it was just nice to be able to use more of a holistic alternative to help, because there's not much you can really take over the counter that's safe, especially for our little children.
Yes. Yeah. So it's funny that you said that because so first of all, I found out about, and please correct me because I might say it wrong, Oscillococcinum.
Oh, almost. Oscillococcinum.
Thank you. So what I tell my girlfriends, though, because I started the boys on this, like I saw actually another Instagram influencer posting about how she was looking for natural remedies for her family going into cold and flu season. And she posted about this last year. Well, then sure enough, I had what I would literally call the trip from HE double hockey sticks to Tampa, which you don't expect because you're like down by the beach and it's beautiful. Right. My in-laws live there. We love it. But literally the flu ran through my entire family. And it was so bad that we literally cut our trip short. We drove back 10 hours to Birmingham, Alabama. Wow. My husband pulled in the driveway, ran in the house and through up. Like it was bad, terrible trip. But I had screenshot that girl's, picture of, and I call it the O pellets. That's what I always tell my friends. Right. The O brand in the store. It's the pellets your kids can take. We stopped at a gas station, bought it on the way home and started taking it. And one of my boys didn't end up getting the the flu, like it didn't come to full fruition. And I felt like my symptoms dramatically decreased quicker than Eric's did, who he was kind of like first man down.
Right.
But anyway, it's a game changer, y'all. And for somebody that's looking for something that's not like what you're saying, the sugars, the fake crap, all that stuff. And both Leighton and Finn could take it. And they're like, ooh, can I have some more? Like they think it's candy. Like they love it.
They think it's candy, but it doesn't work like candy.
Yes.
The thing is, it works extremely well. And the other cool thing, guys, don't forget, I am a Western trained physician here. I grew up on the prescriptions and so forth. I bleed Columbia blue. And then I saw that patients were getting better. That educated me on it. And then I saw that my family was getting better on this. And so it was like the best experiment that you can really give, right? You give it, you try it, you get it with your family, and you get the benefits. The other thing that my kids know about is that there's another boron treatment a boron thing that's supportive, I should say, for colds is Cold Calm. Now, this is also something else that I love for my kids. Now, I couldn't give them Cold Calm until they were 4. So it's a little bit older for that. But the thing is that I love the fact that it didn't mask the symptoms of the cold. See, so many things that are out there now, they do just that. Here, it actually targets specific issues or specific symptoms, I should say, that you see with the cold, whether it's a runny nose or whether it's a stuffy nose or just congestion. I also love the fact, guys, they're melt-away pellets. You see, I'm talking about these things that are easier for families, especially on the go and during this time, where they just sort of melt away. None of that artificial stuff that we talked about. And so all of these things are so important. I think it should be important for all of us as adults, but especially for our kids. We don't need to load them up with all these artificial things that are out there that we're going to later find out, oh, this has been pulled off the market because we can't, give this to our kids. You're like, oh my gosh, my kid's been on that for 3 years. Those things aren't going to happen, especially when, like I said, you stay a little closer to the earth when we think about ways to help our kids stay healthy and whole during the season.
I love that so much. So now we've kind of heard a little bit about, and I guess, is there anything you want to expound upon about why antibiotics and some of the like less natural things are bad? Like we know that it's not good for our gut. But is there anything else that you're like, oh, a major red flag about this thing that you might be taking is there, I would think more sugars are in it, like anything else, I guess, we missed?
I'll tell you, it may not necessarily be exactly sugar, Heather, but what happens is that some of these antibiotics that we give out just kind of willy-nilly, sometimes they can interfere with the way our heart beats, our pathway, palpitations. Some of the other antibiotics can cause unwanted GI side effects that you're thinking about. Imagine someone, I have a younger, and I have the kind of the luxury of a younger and an older population where I have some younger ones who are dealing with celiac disease, their gluten insensitivity. Imagine that already having gluten insensitivity, then you're starting this antibiotic, which is going overload on your GI system while you're taking usually 5 to 7 days of this antibiotic. So, we talk a lot about the gut, but don't forget that the fact that sometimes it can interfere with how the heart beats and sometimes. So there's a lot of little things depending on the antibiotic. But once again, you have to be mindful about this. And the way healthcare is now, it's kind of tough for the doc to say, I want you to watch out for bam, 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 bam. It's harder. But when you can look at some of these things that we talked about, whether it's the acetylcoxine or Cold Calm or what have you, it's nice to be able to go to the store, see these things on your shelf, know that there are alternatives you can offer your kid that are safe. And that's the big important thing.
For sure. Now, you talked about, and I'm curious about this, about how it doesn't mask the symptoms. And I have heard both camps talk about how as soon as you have a fever spike that you should be taking something to lower it back down. And then other people say, no, please let it run its course because it's actually that's your body's natural response for a reason. So do you mind just kind of walking through some of those thought processes and where you land on that?
Sure, Heather. I appreciate that question because you're right. We were at this age when the fever comes, we have to load them up with all these medications to stop this fever. This shows you the beautiful, God-given design, or whomever you may believe in design, is that when that fever comes, guess what, guys? It's making it more difficult for that bacteria and virus to live. It's your body's own way to say, nope, something's inside. I'm going to turn up the furnace and I'm going to help this person get rid of it as well. So it's not necessarily so important to jump on that fever with all the meds in the beginning. But I will say this. I usually say, you wait 3 days or so to see kind of where you go. Is your child not getting better or even getting a little worse? I now say 48 hours. And the reason why I do that, Heather, is because once again, the healthcare system is a little challenging and a little stuffy. So it's kind of hard to get in right away to see the doctor. And so if I say 3 days, it becomes 4 or 5 sometimes. So I say to moms out there, especially, should your child not kind of be turning the corner or getting a little better or is very listless and so forth after 48 hours, that's the time to get on the phone and start shifting gears a little bit.
Now, is there a temperature that, because you're right, and most of the women that listen to this podcast, they're God-fearing believers. They love the Lord, and so we believe that it's His intricate design. And so, but is there a temperature that you're like, oh, but once you hit that degree, Mama is like, let's just go ahead and do something proactive?
You know what? That's a hard one, Heather, because, kids terrify us as adults, right? Because our little fever, 99, 100, Dr. Redcross isn't feeling great. Sophia or Evan, they'll be 104, my twins. And I'm like, oh my God. Oh! And so, exactly. So I'll tell you this. It's tough to say. But once again, I will definitely go 101, 102, even though kids get higher and they can be fine. But even then chasing that number, look at your kid clinically. This is your chance to kind of become, my assistant, a Dr. Redcross assistant for your child and say, all right, they're a little listless. They haven't taken in anything, food or drink for a while. Things are changing. The fever is 101, 102 now. Let's not wait for that 103, 104 spike. But once again, that 48-hour window is usually for me, Heather, with my experience that, the kid's getting a little better. They're up. They're playing with their toys again. Not perfect, still the runny nose, but things are kind of shifting a bit. If not, that's the time to kind of call in the reinforcements.
Hey, Mama, do you feel like you are surviving on chicken nuggets and goldfish and haven't stepped in a gym since college? Or maybe, on the other hand, you feel like you're checking every health box and are still hitting a brick wall? Well, I'm here to help you redefine what it means to be healthy from the inside out. I'm a former fitness instructor and everyday mom who is passionate about helping you create a beautiful life you freaking love. So I'm opening the doors to the Healthy by Heather Brown membership to the public and can't wait to walk alongside you and be your cheerleader. When you join, you'll be added to my exclusive Facebook group. You'll receive my Sunday reset training that will help you create promising, sustainable, healthy choices from the inside out, which will in turn lead to a more joy-filled life for busy moms. Live coaching and workout classes with yours truly. You asked and I listened. We'll talk about how to balance your whole health when you have kids and life get busy with school and activities. It includes grocery haul ideas and accountability as we all reset together each Sunday. There will be so much offered that you won't find anywhere else on the internet. Are you ready to take one step out of stress, shame, unhealthy boundaries, and fatigue and add healthy rhythms to the Hot Nuts Express? When you're ready, I'll see you on the other side of the link in the show notes. I'm excited and ready to hold your hand and meet face to face. Okay, that's good to hear. Now, one thing that I think about often is that when the kids get sick, a lot of times what we're worried about is dehydration. And I know I go to a naturopath and a chiropractor, and I've had him on the show before. He talks a lot about how he is less concerned about people getting enough water and more concerned about them getting great minerals. Is there anything that you would say as far as when your kids are sick, do you try to give them some kind of mineral or some kind of different water or sports drink to help them keep that hydration up?
Yeah, I do. I go kind of like the naturopath. I'm kind of big on it doesn't have to be Pedialyte directly, everyone, but I'm definitely liking that a little bit more than like some of the other ones that are colored and artificial flavored. It's kind of pure. And the reason why I say that is, why do we want them hydrated? Obviously, you're losing a lot of fluid because they're not eating, they're drinking, but don't forget, they get what's called insatiable losses, meaning sometimes, guys, we're sitting here now, we're sweating, we don't really know it. those things are happening all day as well with our children. And so you need to make sure. We also want to make sure that the mucous membranes are moist. Why? Because when they're dry, it's a little easier for those little bacteria or viruses to kind of whittle themselves in instead of when it's actually your membranes are moist. And so it's important to really stay hydrated. I always teach the kids, they even do that now. They're like, I'm feeling better. I'm looking in the toilet, Dad, and everything is clear. My urine is clear. And you're thinking, but it's true. When your urine is clear, everyone, you are perfectly hydrated. That's where you kind of want to be to let you know if you're drinking enough. And especially when you're having a cold or cold symptoms, because you're going to get behind. Your body is burning. Like you said, those fevers burns calories and also causes a lot of swelling and losses.
Okay, that's good. Good for everybody to be aware of. I will say I talk a lot on here and also on my Instagram about Redmond real salt, or getting that pink Himalayan Celtic salt.
Yeah,
yes. Yeah. Do you have one that you like or recommend for people?
I'm just like you. I love the Himalayan salt when that comes in, and I mix that sometimes. Especially sometimes I get sometimes one of my twins will get sore throat. So I also like, there's a homeopathic remedy called Throat Calm. Which once again, I like a lot because, a lot of the other ones that are out there numb the throat. And I don't want to, especially when they were little, to numb the gag reflex and that sort of thing.
Oh, smart.
So I like that. And so when I'm using the saltwater gargles, I like the Himalayan sea salt to use that for gargling because they also get some absorption of it as well. So I'm kind of like you there with the same one.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, awesome. And then we talk some about if a mama's listening to this and she's like, oh my gosh, I've already had my kid on so many antibiotics. Is there anything that you could tell her that she could do to help them rebuild their gut over time? Or even if you're like, listen, hey, sometimes life happens and it gets really bad and you got to get on antibiotic. How do you recommend that they recover from that?
Yeah, so look, and that's right. Look, everyone. So like I mentioned, I'm Western trained. So it isn't that antibiotics are necessarily evil. Okay, because there are some instances where we absolutely need it. This is just the place where homeopathy in particular that I've mentioned a couple of things are perfect, right? It's kind of in the beginning. It's kind of in the phase where we can make a really big difference. So if you're one of those moms out there and you're hearing this now, you're like, oh my gosh, I just heard about this. A good probiotic is a good way to start it all over again. So don't worry, you're never too late. You get that good probiotic and also a prebiotic. A lot of them kind of come together, everyone. When you get that, it seeds the gut nicely to be able to start your immunity. Remember, 90% of our immune cells, guess what, everyone? They're housed in the lining of the gut. That's so why wild. It's so important. Isn't that amazing? And so that's that brain-gut axis that we're hearing a lot about. So remember that sort of thing. So don't feel you're behind the eight ball. A good probiotic or prebiotic or both together will make a big difference and, get your baby's gut going again.
Now, do you recommend that kids always be taking a probiotic and a prebiotic, or is it more so like if they've had some intestinal upset or an antibiotic?
That's even a better question. Because I'm such a big proponent of the natural way of healing, or for at least for support, I talk with my kids since they were, how old were the twins? I think my twins, everyone, they were around probably 5th grade, I want to remember, maybe around 10 or so, to where I was starting just on a prebiotic. A probiotic, everyone. Prebiotic is kind of the newer thing that's out there. But I was doing a probiotic, and I was doing this because one of my twins, she was getting sick a little more often, and I didn't want to give one to one and not the other. But it was so important because it helped them to support their immune system. So I was doing it before. When they were actually having to take antibiotics, an ear infection or something along those lines, I would end up still taking it, even though, in a sense, everyone, you're taking the antibiotic. It's still kind of killing that bacteria, but I'm kind of replenishing it. I'm kind of going in a circle there. So I even continued because a probiotic can make a really big difference to really keep your kid's constitution up.
Okay, that's incredible info to know. Now, we talked about a little bit about obviously what to do once your kids are starting to feel sick as we're going into cold and flu season. What can we do on the prevention end? Is there any kind of even like oils or like this is like 100%, I've got to have it in my arsenal of things that we're doing going into that season, or even like things you shouldn't eat, shouldn't drink because it lowers your immunity?
Yeah, so kind of in your toolkit. So when you say things you shouldn't eat or drink, you shouldn't do this anyway, whether you're sick, but the importance is like those sugary beverages, soft drinks and that, that's a huge X, everyone. Luckily, everyone's kind of coming around to that a little bit. Honestly, Heather.
I honestly am so thankful. I feel like people are starting to wake up to that.
Yeah,
like when it's Christmas Day, enjoy your drink if you want it. Or like if you're on vacation, but like just on your regular, you probably don't need 5 sodas a day.
No, don't make it a part of your normal food plan, right? And that's the key. As far as some of those good things, one of the big vitamins, people will say, Doc, what is the best vitamin? It's vitamin D, everyone. I can jump up and down with vitamin D as I talk about it, because it's not only about bone health, everyone. Vitamin D is about the immunity benefits. Look, each cell of the immune system has a receptor for vitamin D on it. Why would you think the good Lord set that up, right? It's because it can go there and make a really big difference. So vitamin D is a big one. Vitamin C, we all know about. We've heard about that since we were kids. And also vitamin E. Vitamin E is interesting, and where the big thing there for immunity, everyone, is the antioxidant properties. So how are you going to get these things? Vitamin E, well, vitamin D, a good way to get that is with some fatty fish like salmon. It's the reason why back in the day, your grandma used to give you cod liver oil. I'm probably dating myself here, everyone, but they gave you that because really it has vitamin D in it. You get vitamin E from nuts, vitamin C, we know citrus. So I think we all kind of know where to get these things, but these are things that are good to do kind of even pre-cold, but when cold or flu comes, kind of make sure that you're staying on top of those, because food is medicine. You'll hear me say that all the time if you ever hear me, but it's really, in fact, true that you can actually heal and nurture yourself back to feeling better and preventing some of these things.
Absolutely. I actually I've seen a lot of Instagram and TikTok things coming out recently talking about how not only we call it cold and flu season, but they were like, well, when you think about it, it really is. It's more so like it's sugar and like really unhealthy, like fake food season, which exacerbates all this stuff. So like really think about what you're putting in your body. But I'm curious, is there anything that you always fed your kids that you felt like this is an easy snack that I can still grab out of the pantry or the fridge or the freezer, but because I know all you mamas, you're busy. December is crazy town. And I know it's so easy to just grab the Cheez-Its and the this and that and the other, but like, I'd love to hear y'all's healthy snacks you kept on hand for your kids.
Well, I'll say that as far as the Cheez-Its thing as you were mentioning, anything that leaves powder on your fingers, guys, don't eat it. All right. Don't eat it. Don't give it.
We know you love the Doritos, but
exactly. But put them down. Put them down. But, importantly, it's funny. With my kids, we were big on the vegetables because they were easy to go. They were easy to hit the road with, right? So the carrot sticks, the celery sticks, probably a lot of what you moms do there. Another one, my daughter, she loves cucumbers. So we would chop up cucumbers. So things that were kind of on the go. They also give a lot of good fiber, which is important for you guys know for a lot of your kids, because sometimes they're not drinking as much and getting enough fiber, causing other challenges. So vegetables were really good to kind of hit the road. And those little tomatoes that kind of you put in the little container, you can take those as well. Any of those things that are nice and portable made a big difference. And obviously some fruits as well, bananas and tangerines in particular.
Yes, for sure. I know one thing that I've been really trying to work with on my boys is getting more protein in too. And so with our older one, we've gotten him to start doing protein shakes. And then with the younger one, he will actually eat beef sticks, which makes me really excited. So I'm like, yes. Have you heard of those Chomps or Paleo Valley brand?
No, not that brand in of itself, but I have of the jerkies though.
Okay. Those two brands are very clean, which makes us as mamas very happy. So anyway, I can't believe we're like coming up on our time. So I do want to ask you just really quick, do you mind telling everybody where they can find you online? Maybe just mention the website where they can find out. Because you've mentioned several times like the throat calm and the O pills. The O pills or Ocello. So tell them where they can go find those online to find out what stores are close to them, all that. And then I'll ask you my final question.
Absolutely. So look, everyone, luckily, most of the grocery stores that you go to and CVS or wherever you're located, some Whole Foods and so forth will have Boron. The website, you guys can learn even more at boron.com. to really be able to do a little bit of digging into some of the important things that are available for us. Now, for any of you who want to reach out, and I really, really mean it, this is not lip service, everyone, for questions, to say hello. My Instagram is Dr. Ken Redcross, or Dr. Redcross, and then on LinkedIn, Dr. Ken Redcross. But I love when moms reach out because I've been there, I live it, I still live it. And there's all these little things that I know that can be helpful. So I hope to meet some new friends along the way.
Yes, absolutely. And then I will tell y'all, like, even before we got on the show, he was just talking and so kind. Like, he really does want to help people. I can tell that.
Absolutely.
And so I'm thankful for your kindness with your time and just with sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you.
So last question for you is, how do you reset and recharge each week? And this can be anything that makes you feel like you.
Oh, well, I do two things in particular, everyone. So you can't really see them, but I have my beads. I do meditation each and every day. I meditated before seeing you guys today to make sure I imparted some wisdom. So I meditate in between and exercise. I exercise 3 to 4 days a week. And that's the way I balance each and every day. But the meditation is important, everyone, because that allows me to unplug from this world, to be able to focus more on the spirituality of all of our being.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And do you mind even giving like a quick, I know I told you one more question, but I'm just curious, how have you noticed that your like mind, body, spirit has, and your understanding of it from a medical perspective has changed from the beginning to now? I would love to hear just like, and I know that's such a big question, but even just like a few sentence takeaway, maybe.
Well, I'll tell you, everyone. So some years ago, quickly, I was running around dealing with a lot of the S word. The S word is stress. I don't say it, everyone, because I think it manifested, but I was dealing with a lot of the S word. Quick story is that I had a cardiac event. It says that I was really having a heart attack in my 30s. Long story short, that changed everything for me. That's when I started to realize that this world we live in is nothing about the physical body. It's all about the spirit that's within. And what it allowed me to do was be able to pull back and recognize that if I'm living this spiritual sort of experience, how can I hone it each and every day? And a lot of it is just to make sure that I am grateful and that I am touching as many souls each and every day as possible. That's why I think I was given another shot.
Oh, wow. That's really, I'm like, dang, we need a part 2 to get into that. That's so good.
You already know the outcome. I'm here. So.
I love it. Well, Dr. Redcross, you were a joy. Thank you so much for being on today.
Oh, thank you for having me on. Be well, everyone. And I hope to meet some of you soon. Be well.
That's right. You guys go connect with him on Instagram or LinkedIn, like he said. Y'all, such a joy and so many tangible takeaways that you can put into your health and wellness routine, not only for you, but also for your kids, which is what we always want you to get from the show, is just tangible takeaways to help you get better in your mind, body, and your spirit every single day. So grateful for each of you. God bless. Merry Christmas. And then I'll tag team Eric in next for our marriage corner. All right, here we go. Welcome back to the Marriage Corner, Eric Brown. Sorry that you've got my soaking wet hair and crazy hair turban next to you.
It's okay. You always look great.
Thanks. It's an interesting look for sure.
But yes, it's good to be back in the Marriage Corner. So, yeah.
We had a few weeks without Eric this season, which was super sad. But now that we're kind of getting settled in post Thanksgiving and getting ready for the holidays, and I think that's actually might be our last episode of the season, Eric, that we air this on. So that's kind of sad.
A little sad, but, sometimes we like to have a good time. We do our trivia questions. Sometimes we like to be serious, but I thought we'd maybe get a little bit more philosophical today. And
nothing like getting philosophical going into the holidays.
Yeah, some deep thinking. That's what everybody wants to do when they're stressed to the max. But anyways, the question that I had for you today, and I think it's a question that I think about a fair amount. The question is, what is truth? I know that's a very philosophical question, but I feel like it is very appropriate in today's environment because we are bombarded with so much different information, so many different news stories. I feel like it is hard or difficult for people to figure out what really is true. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that. So, I think this is a broad question, but I wanted to ask you, what is truth? Or how can you figure out what is true?
Yeah, for sure. So I think that, I mean, I don't know how, like you said, there's so many directions that you could go with this, but obviously as a Bible believing Christian, I would say that I base what is true is what is biblical.
Well, let me ask you this first real quick before we go into the reasoning, but what are some things that you struggle with knowing what is true?
I mean, ever since 2020, I feel like I struggle with knowing, like, what is the media saying and what's true and what's propaganda and what is, like, just going to make big pharma big money, or like, even you sometimes go back and forth on, like, what's true when your kids get in an argument. Like, is Leighton telling me the truth or is Finn telling me the truth? There's so many different things that have you having to question what is true on a day-to-day basis.
I would completely agree with that. So let's like dive into that a little bit about, I guess we could go into the specific example of when kids trying to determine if they're telling you the truth or not. I feel like as parents, we have a general instinct of, is a child trying to bend the truth or are they lying? And how do you deal with that? But what is the thought process, or what is the step-by-step approach that you maybe use or that you're going through in your head to figure out what is true? And maybe the kid situation isn't the best example just because, like I said, I feel like there's a lot of intuition when kids are not telling the truth. But what is the step-by-step process in which you use, or, what do you think about when you're trying to determine what is the truth?
I honestly don't know if I think about this as much as you do, because I feel like you're going to have a much more well thought out answer. But in my mind, I guess if I'm like having to quickly determine, is this true or not? I'm typically thinking, what is the motivation behind where this is coming from? So, for instance, like if I mentioned, like, whether it be the kids or the media or whatever it is, what is the motivation? Is it a scare tactic? Is it just trying to get clicks? Is it because the kid doesn't want to get in trouble? So a lot of times coming back to what the motivation is kind of helps me read the person or the situation better, perhaps, or helps me know where to start digging in with more questions.
Yeah, I would completely agree with you on that. And I think that's how you and I are both aligned, is that I'm definitely trying to figure out the motivation behind whatever is being reported. And also, too, I think it's really important to get multiple different viewpoints because, as you know, you can turn on Fox News, you can turn on MSNBC, and those really aren't news stations anymore as so much opinion. It's opinion media, essentially, where, you could be talking about the exact same topic and Fox News compared to MSNBC will have completely different viewpoints. So it's not really news, because news really is just reporting what is actually going on with no opinion. And I truly wish it was more like that.
Ooh, can I interject real quick?
Sure.
Okay. There is a Instagram account, and they now have an email newsletter you can subscribe to, and maybe even a YouTube channel. And I'm debating whether they have a podcast or not, but it's called The Pour Over News. Have you heard of this, Eric?
I have not.
But anyway, they truly just report the facts. And then they say, essentially, from a biblical perspective, this is what the Bible says about said facts. And I really appreciate that, because they're not giving their opinion on the facts at all. It's just like, this happened today in Israel.
Well, I would definitely be interested in checking that out, because I think one of the things that makes it so difficult to figure out what is true is just how sensationalized everything is nowadays. And when things become sensationalized, emotions get brought into what is true and what is not. And I feel like a lot of times emotion does play an important role in many things and how we view the world. But as far as figuring out what is true, I feel like emotions and different opinions can cloud what is actually true. You mentioned just briefly when COVID was going on, but it doesn't have to be COVID. It can be any scientific matter where you want to find information, and people are like, oh, you want to find evidence-based research, and you want to find all these different studies that are peer-reviewed. The fact of the matter is, if you want to validate your own opinion on something, you can find a study that will agree with you. But the thing is, too, there's going to be another study that someone else is going to find that's going to say the exact same thing, which is why I think what you said before is so important. You have to figure out what is the motivation. And, a lot of times in these academic studies, there's money coming from a lot of different organizations, companies, the government a lot of times as well, too. So you have to take all of those things with a grain of salt. But typically, and, I think I would say one of the main things about figuring out the motivation is it's another way of saying, where's the money coming from? Follow the money. And as far as figuring out what is true on this earth, I think you can look towards money probably about 95% of the time. Where's the money coming from to figure out the motivation, and hence use your own judgment to figure out what is actually true. So that's kind of what I would say as far as my thought process is concerned. I want to get a lot of different viewpoints. I want to dive down to figure out what is the motivation behind the conclusions of these studies, do some research maybe on the people that are doing the studies and figure out where they come from, what their background is, where's their money coming from. Now that's a lot of hard work. And I think that's why it's so difficult for people to sift through all this different information to figure out what is true. And I think now more than ever, trying to figure out what is true and having a basis for truth is so important. And I think at the very beginning of this, you were kind of getting into, from a biblical perspective, how do we figure out what is true and what is our truth grounded in?
Yeah, for sure. And I actually looked up this Bible verse about truth when Eric had kind of mentioned that he might want to talk about this today. It's from 1 John 4:6. And I feel like it speaks a lot to what our current culture is questioning right now, which is like, what is truth about a man and about a woman and about who can have babies and who can breastfeed, and just like all these things that like biblically we know the answer to. And I think that obviously people that don't rely on the Bible or a source of truth, that can be really hard, I would imagine, to always feel like you have this slippery sliding slope of, well, what is true and what is politically correct to say is true or not true. That stresses me out just to think about that. Does it you?
It does. But as I get older and I get more reaffirmed with my faith and what both you and I know to be true, I become just more confident in what I know to be true. Mm-hmm. And I also, the only people that I really care about as far as the truth in which I live my life and my worldview is my relationship with Christ. It's my family. It's you, the boys. It's our extended family, and really our community, which is typically a group of fellow believers as well, too. So I'll one up your verse, and this is probably the most...
Wait, I haven't read it yet.
Oh, all right. Well, you mentioned it, but go ahead and read it. You read your verse, and then I'll read mine.
Okay.
Which is, I would say mine is the quintessential verse, which I'm guessing people already know, but go ahead.
Okay, cool. This one is one that I didn't have top of mind, which it sounds like yours is. 1 John 4:6, we are from God, and whoever knows God listens to us, but whoever is not from God does not listen to us. This is how we recognize the spirit of truth and the spirit of falsehood. And I think that there's a lot to be said about that. Like I said, with the cultural lies that are being pumped out right now, is that a lot of times other believers are going to recognize the spirit of truth because it's either biblical or it's not.
I could not agree more, and I'll one up you. John 14:6, and this is the one that probably most people are familiar with, but I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. And just going back to what you had said, talking about deception and things of that nature, I feel like now, today, it's more important than ever to recognize that there are forces and Satan is trying to muddy the water. He is always trying to deceive. He is the great deceiver. And that's why it is so important to root our faith and our trust in Christ to figure out what is true. So I encourage everybody if you don't have a relationship with Christ, I encourage you to think about that, to think about what is true, and to go from there. And that's all we can do is encourage you. Keep an open heart, keep an open mind, and that's all I have to say.
Well, I love that so much. And I think that actually, I made fun of you a little bit saying that about like, oh man, people love to get philosophical. Thank you. Philosophical going into the holidays. But actually, I do feel like ultimately, as we lean in towards Christmas, ultimately we come down to the truth, the way, the life, like you said, and Jesus being born in a manger. And we're so thankful for that gift and the fact that that is the truth that Eric and I stake our lives on. So, Eric, is there anything in closing you want to say about Christmas or any just closing thoughts for the season even?
I think the last thing I would say, and this is just kind of going off what you just said as well too, is that I think you and I can both agree is that in our truth, we find contentment, and there's so much lack of contentment in today's society and so many families that I truly encourage people to find that truth. And if they find that truth, they will find contentment and peace. And especially in today's world, and as the holidays and Christmas are going crazy, I believe that you can find contentment and find contentment in the truth.
Yes. Amen. Amen. I'm going to close with this statement from A.W. Tozer. His quote is, "What comes into our minds when we think about God is the most important thing about us." So, y'all, that's wild because that applies to atheists, Bible-believing Christians, and everything in between. So just a reminder to really dive into that truth. Take the time to chat with your children about it, talk with your husband about it, talk with your friends, and make sure that you're not just going through the motions of celebrating Christmas, but you really know what it means in your hearts. We are so grateful for another season of Healthy by Heather Brown with you guys. We plan to come back with the next season in probably, mid to late January, depending on how unpacking and all of life things are going, maybe early February, but we will be back. And I can't believe that we'll be going into our second year of podcasting. That truly is wild and it's such a joy. You guys bring me so much joy. So if you want the podcast to keep happening, please make sure you write us a review. You leave us those 5 stars every time you listen. It helps so much, truly. And we can't say enough. Thank you. Share it with a friend and Merry Christmas. We love y'all.